actually probably the most complicated motion burden that you can have. I think it is probably a motion burden where you also or like already have the most advantage. Why do I say so? In this house regrets, the format of the motion is very simple in the way that you say this house regrets X, and X is the thing that you're supposed to be regretting. So the way that this regret works is you try and push harms as government. So the government team goes ahead and tries to clarify or define what exactly is this X thing, why has it happened, when did it start, what led to it start happening in the first place. Before we go ahead and we tackle all of this, let's just move on to the next slide. Deva. Cool, thank you so much. Right, so the format of the motion is this house regrets X. Now, it is up to both the teams here to go ahead and like try to engage with why exactly X is a good thing or a bad thing. So you regret the existence of this X happening in the first place on government. It is your job as government then to go ahead and define why did this X thing occur in the first place, what led to its occurrence, why was it important, why is it still something that we probably have in society, etc. So you go ahead and you basically map out the entire timeline for this X thing occurring. That is your burden on government. Once you go ahead and do that, you have to imagine that this X thing never takes place, which means from every single timeline or from every single way that you were talking about X, just remove this X thing from happening. So if I say this house regrets the existence of football, then it is up to you to prove when football started, why was it necessary, what led to football happening. Once you go ahead and explain all of this in your speeches, preferably your first speech, go ahead and remove the existence of football. Imagine that football never happened and it stopped from the first day that it was like possibly happening. So we call this t is equal to zero, which means from the 0 second or like the zero time. So once you remove football from the 0 second or zero time, it's up to you as the government to present a counterfactual. A counterfactual is nothing but an alternative which you think is the most likely. This alternative is supposed to go ahead and fill the vacuum that this X thing not existing is left behind. So if football no longer exists, and that is how I view the debate, then I can say, hey, because football does not exist, I think rugby can exist now because it's pretty similar, but also it's better. So it's up to you then to go ahead and define how exactly rugby is existing, why exactly is it better, but also what are the significant benefits that rugby goes ahead and gives on government world that opposition world can never claim with football. So on a comparative, it is up to you to prove that the benefits of rugby far outweigh the benefits of football on opposition, but also secondarily that the harms of rugby are probably way lesser than the harms of football, and the harms of football themselves are is like reason enough for you to go ahead and regret the existence of football. So when you're regretting something or you have a regrets motion, you don't just push harms on the thing that you're regretting. You don't just say why exactly this thing even existing is a bad thing. You move one step further and you basically go ahead and prove what would be better. So the two questions that government team has to go ahead and answer in this debate is to go ahead and prove why exactly is this thing bad, since when is this occurring, why is it occurring, and then you remove its existence. You prove why it's bad. The second burden of proof that you have is to show a new thing, let's say a new thing why, and why exactly it's better. Next slide, please. Cool. So once government team goes ahead and gives you things like counterfactuals, etc., it is up to the opposition team to like go ahead and try to prove why exactly is the status quo better. What is status quo and what does it look like? Status quo is supposed to go ahead and engage with the thing that you're regretting, which means you don't regret the existence of football on opposition. You still believe football is a better like sport. Then you have two burdens of proof on opposition as well. First being why football is good or necessary or it's good enough for the status quo. Prove why exactly football has like exclusive benefits that outweigh the harms that government tries to like push on you. The second burden of proof that you have is to go ahead and prove on a comparative why this new thing that government has proposed, in this case rugby, why rugby still is not able to claim all the benefits that football probably gives you, or why rugby is like not able to outweigh the benefits of football. Go ahead and prove then on opposition why exactly rugby is still a bad thing, or why exactly there are certain harms associated with rugby which football solves exclusively. So this entire debate takes place on a comparative, and it is up to the government to go ahead and give this comparative by the method of a counterfactual. What happens then if you have a bad government in a debate and they don't give you a counterfactual? There are two things that opposition should do then. One, go ahead and say that, hey, the burden of proof on government is to go ahead and provide us a counterfactual. Because government does not give us a counterfactual, they have like failed the burden that this motion carries. But also secondarily, because this counterfactual is not something that is provided by the government, let me go here and tell you what a likely counterfactual looks like from the government. So a good way for you to win the debate conclusively is to do the legwork for government, and this like should be done by LO if government gives no counterfactual. So leader of factual. And the reason why cricket is still not better than football is XYZ. Prove why exactly the likelihood of cricket being the counterfactual is something that's a reality, etc. So even if government provides you no counterfactual, you go ahead and you provide a counterfactual as the opposition, along with calling out the fact that government gave you no counterfactual. That is like necessarily a good thing that you can do in this House of Regrets debate. To understand this better, because we do realize that this is confusing, let's go ahead and take a motion, right? So this house regrets the culture of fearing death. If this is the motion that you're considering, then as government or as opposition, you don't necessarily debate just the harms or benefits of fearing death. So you don't just go ahead and talk about um, death in isolation. You also talk about the culture that is revolving death itself. So you probably talk about how, like, let's say in things like Christianity, you probably know that there is something known as a heaven and something known as hell, and people probably go to either of these places once they die. So you talk about the culture of fearing death is then that, hey, you have to do something good throughout your life so that you make it to heaven. Otherwise, you go to hell, and that's necessarily bad because you probably suffered there. So that is a culture that is revolving around death. There can be other cultures then that government can go ahead and claim that, hey, there's probably a culture of like carpe diem, which is like go ahead and do your very best at every single instance, etc. So that can be a culture that is associated with death. It is up to the government to characterize how exactly this culture is taking place. It is also up to the opposition to contest the nature of this culture if you like want to. Which means if opposition does not inherently go ahead and agree with the way that this culture is working, you can go ahead and put forward your own understanding of what this culture is, that which like revolves around fearing death, etc. So maybe you fear mortality on opposition. You fear how exactly this death would occur. You fear the method. You fear the pain involved, etc., etc. It can be a variety of things. So a lot of it depends then entirely on characterization. So let's just assume that both teams do a fair enough job of going ahead and like interacting what exactly this culture of fearing death is then. The second thing that you go ahead and interact with is how did this culture start? What led to this culture like beginning in the first place? What was the T is equal to zero moment? What were the necessary conditions met for this culture of fearing death to even like come into existence? So once you go ahead and debate on that, you go ahead and remove that from government. So like in your prep time, go ahead and assume that this culture no longer exists. Go ahead and supply us with a, let's say, a counterfactual. The way that this counterfactual can work is like dependent again on government team. So let's say that the government team decides that the way that this counterfactual working is to claim that, hey, I think people no longer fear death anymore, but I think people want to do their best or like get done with the most they can in each and every single day. So like the concept of carpe diem. Let's go ahead and say that you want to live your life to the fullest. So instead of having the culture of fearing death, you possibly have this culture of going ahead and trying your best every single day, which means the amount of output that you're able to go ahead and create in your life is significantly more rather than just fearing death, etc. So you can talk about how exactly you're able to maximize your lived experience, but you're able to maximize the benefits that you get from this lived experience. So that's the way that you basically go ahead and define what the counterfactual is. Rather than just defining it, you need to do a second thing as well, which is prove this likelihood of this new thing existing is true. You can go ahead and talk about how exactly time is something that runs out, and you as an individual are always aware of the fact that time runs out because you see the sun rising and you see the sun setting, etc. So you want to go ahead and make the best of it because you know you're going to die someday. But instead of fearing this death, you probably want to make the most of your time until you reach death, etc. So things like that is possibly how you go ahead and explain why the likelihood of this existence of the new counterfactual is something that is, let's say, a truth, etc. What then is the next burden on government? Government goes in and proves why exactly this counterfactual is significantly better and deals with, like, let's say, the benefits in a better way as well. Which means, on a comparative, if government is able to prove that this culture of, let's say, living your life to the fullest is significantly better than the culture of fearing death, government wins the debate. Then the burden on opposition is to go ahead and do an impact analysis, a harms versus benefits analysis, to go ahead and prove why exactly fearing death is like still something that's important, and goes ahead and covers significant harms and benefits which the culture of living your life to the fullest is never able to do. The second thing you can go ahead and do is try to prove why the likelihood of culture of living your life to the fullest is flawed. Talk about why exactly it is not a reality and something that cannot exist. The second thing you can go ahead and say is that even if you go ahead and you try to live your life to the fullest, maybe it's not a good motivating factor, etc. Maybe you need this ticking time bomb to go ahead and make you fear death, which is why you try to make the best of your time, your life, etc. So that is basically how you go ahead and engage with THR motions. What we can do now is get another THR motion and try to work through it ourselves. But before we go ahead and do that, does anyone have like any sort of questions regarding the burden that exists on both houses? If you do, just go ahead and unmute or like raise your hand. Either works. If not, just give me a reaction. That works as well. Cool, cool, great. Seeing that most of you have understood, let me just go ahead and post a motion on the chat. Take a minute, think about it, and if any one of you want to go ahead and tell me why exactly. So like the motion reads, this house regrets the rise of nonchalance in popular culture. Go ahead and read it for a bit. Go ahead and try to understand what exactly does this motion look like. What is it talking about? Um, Take a minute. Raise your hand if you want to go ahead and talk about what exactly is nonchalance. Why did the rise happen? What is popular culture, etc. We can go ahead and discuss it then. I method of you understanding how exactly regrets motions work, rather than just listening to us tell what it is. Yes, I'm just talking.
Yes, so so the motion that you proposed, what side do I have to take? I mean, do I have to present my
I'm so
personal
sorry, you were
opinion?
not audible. Hi, hi, I'm so sorry. Maybe it's my internet, but you're breaking up a little. Could you just repeat?
Yeah, I said किस side से बोलना है, like gov or off?
Government, government.
Government, okay. So why do I?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Just a minute, one more minute.
So I'll just help you out a little. I'll pose certain questions and go ahead and try to answer those questions. And that's basically how you case prep as well. So the way that I case prep is I come up with a bunch of questions, or I go ahead and try to figure out which question needs an answer in this debate. Then I go ahead and try to look for answers to the question, the most likely answer, and prove why that answer is most likely as well. So that's how you inherently go ahead and case prep and debate. So the first question that I think you'll need to answer is what exactly is popular culture? What exactly is nonchalance? The second thing that you need to answer is when and why did the concept of nonchalance start? If any of you have any idea, just go ahead and like unmute yourself and speak. If you want me to help you with it, that can be done as well. That's not an issue. Let's just like try learning this.
So I think popular culture is something. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
So, about defining popular culture, I would define popular culture as something that is prevalent in society and one of the most smoothly and vast, one of the most smoothly running trends that has spread its vast expanse in the society at
Absolutely.
present.
So, cool. So, the way that Anjastha, that is government, defines the way that popular culture works is that popular culture is this set of ideas, trends, probably media, the way that you interact with media, the way that things like aesthetics on media work, the way that trends on media work, etc. Basically, any sort of form of media or culture or entertainment that the general public goes ahead and engages with and consumes at the same time or accepts is popular culture. What exactly is the culture then? How exactly is it working? The culture then goes ahead, I think, shapes people on social media, shapes the way that normalization of a certain culture or trend works, shapes how exactly people engage with certain topics, certain aspects of things, etc. etc. So I think that is the main thing that Anjishta wanted to say. I think it's a very fair characterization. Does anyone want to tell me what exactly is nonchalance? How does nonchalance work? Someone other than Anjishta, please.
Nonchalance is the act of being unbothered.
Absolutely. Could you tell me why is it important, or why do people think it's important to be nonchalant?
May I answer that? Yeah.
Go ahead.
So about nonchalance, and why is it important? I feel that it's pretty important because in a world where there is a lot of toxicity, being unbothered and not giving a damn about things is the best way to survive.
Cool. So the reason why you're doing it is to survive. Why do you think nonchalance is the way to survive then? What do you think makes you believe that being cut off from things, or let's say being unbothered about things, is the best way to protect yourself?
Because if I get bothered by stuff, because that the toxic stuff is not gonna stop bombarding me. It is gonna come to me in some form of the or the another. Given the kind of society there is today, where people are judging one another and everything, I think being unbothered is the best way to survive because it helps me. It allows me not to put any burden, not to take any burden
Makes
on my
sense.
being, and keeps my mental health in the best condition.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Um, what Monique and Anjishta are talking about are inherently right. Okay, so I think they go and characterize it in a correct method. But how do you frame this in a debate? The way that I would frame it in a debate is talk about how exactly, because media is very prevalent in status quo right now. People care about popular culture. People care about how exactly you are being perceived. People care about the way that others perceive them or engage with them, which means that every single point in time, you don't want to be vulnerable and you don't want to be the subject of other people's judgment, especially negative judgment, because you want to not care about negative judgment and move on and preserve your own mental health, or at least interact with yourself in a healthy manner wherein other people's judgment does not affect you in a negative way. That is why you go in and you step away from things. That's why you become unbothered. That's why you become nonchalant. So the underlying principle is that A, you're afraid of judgment or you're afraid of showing your vulnerability because other people will judge you. And two is because you want to go ahead and protect yourself at every single point in time. And it's important to you to protect yourself and to protect, let's say, your mental health, your self image, etc. etc. Does that make sense? Do we understand the way that I framed whatever Anjust and Monique were talking about? If you do, just go ahead and, yeah, great. Just react if you understand. Because I'm trying to teach you all how to exactly prep your debate. Cool. Does anyone have any questions yet? Okay. Okay, I got reactions, so I think there are no questions. The third question that then we need to go ahead and answer in this debate, and this is with regards to t is equal to zero, with regards to why did nonchalance start or when did it start. So we already know why it started. We know why we engaged with nonchalance. Yes, Sanjeev. Now the question is, when did it start? Can anyone try and frame out when nonchalance started? Deva, if you want to keep recording, you can. If you want to stop, you can as well. I don't think it matters. Exactly. I think I like what Sanskriti said. Sanskriti said the rise of social media. Sanskriti, can you? Yeah, Sanskriti, are you able to unmute and explain why you're saying that's the rise of social media?
Because from the factor of